After 3,000 years, the strongest demons known as the Ten Commandments finally awake. One of the demon Galland starts destroying the city. Even the strongest leader of the seven deadly sins, Meliodas, isn't able to beat them, and the demon stabs him and beats him near to death. The story kicks off with Elizabeth waking up in a good mood. After eating breakfast, she goes to the Boar Hat, where everyone is still asleep following the festival. She decides to let them sleep as she cleans the deck outside. She is then greeted by Hawk, who still is in a miniaturized size. Elizabeth says she would feel better if Hawk did not leave her side. When they head inside, Meliodas surprises and startles Elizabeth before introducing her to a meat pie made with vegetables that looks like a roasted pig. But it turns out to be unfit for human consumption, having as victims Gilthunder and Hauser. Meliodas then gets the idea of using pork as the main ingredient, scaring Hawk to the point of making haste out of the bar, despite Elizabeth's warnings about the dangers outside. Meanwhile, in the remains of Hendrickson's magical research facility, Merlin and Ban are with the corpse of the Grey Demon, which Ban tries to destroy due to the hate he has towards the Demon Clan, but Merlin stops him. After a while, Hawk still has not come back, despite Meliodas leaving scraps in his bowl while Elizabeth worries about his well-being. Meliodas then comes up with a contest for his friends in which he will obey any order for a day from whoever catches Hawk first. Diane and King also join the search. Meanwhile, Ban is outside of the bar seemingly planning something. Meliodas, Elizabeth, and Gilthunder start looking for Hawk. Meliodas tries looking in a box before reassuring Elizabeth that he will be easy to find due his small size. Gilthunder then says that he will track down Hawk before anyone, and Hawk sneezes and says that someone is talking about him. While Elizabeth talks to Gilthunder about his plans for the future, Meliodas then puts his face between Elizabeth's legs as soon as he spots Hawk behind Gilthunder, who tries to catch him but is outsmarted by his small size. Diane, King, and Hauser are somewhere else looking for Hawk. Diane immediately gets annoyed when King and Hauser start arguing, much to Hauser's anxiety. Diane then thanks both boys for protecting her during the battle before saying that she will catch Hawk and go on a date with Meliodas, much to the boys' disappointment. Diane spots Hawk and tries to catch him, but the latter jumps into her clothes, wriggling himself all the way up to Diane's chest area. King tries to get him out, but collapses in a nosebleed after grabbing her chest in the process. Hauser goes after him and runs into Gilthunder, who engages Hauser. Hawk runs between Meliodas' legs and gets away. After a long day of trying to catch Hawk, everyone heads back to the Boar Hat, only to find that Hawk has returned on his own, feasting on food scraps made by Ban, who's declared the winner as a result. Elizabeth is pleased to see Hawk back safe and sound. However, Meliodas grabs Hawk and declares himself the winner to everyone's chagrin. Everyone gets disappointed that they went through all that trouble for nothing, with the exception of Elizabeth, who says she had a great time. Later, while the group is having a good time, Ban and Meliodas talk about their unfinished battle, which Hawk and Elizabeth notice. At night, Meliodas takes Elizabeth back to the palace, while also assuring that his purpose in life is to protect her, which makes Elizabeth happy. Afterwards, Meliodas goes to the catacombs to tell the Horn of Sir Nunnos to stop lying to Ban. When the goddess in the vessel taunts him for his reputation as a demon, Meliodas destroys it in retaliation as it laughs in its final moments. Meanwhile, in another location, a shepherd boy sees a winged arm flying through the air and runs to tell his father of it. As he runs into his house, he trips and falls. In that moment, a person who looks like Dreyfus appears behind him and asks him to tell that story in more detail. Ban walks up to a mountaintop to finally settle matters with Meliodas, but the former is surprised to see Elizabeth and Hawk as well as the other members of the Seven Deadly Sins and the Holy Knights as part of an audience. Merlin casts a gigantic cubic barrier around Meliodas and Ban in order for the spectators to safely watch the fight. Ban and Meliodas fight, exchanging blows and give tough time to each other. The spectators smile and enjoy the fight while Gilthunder cries watching them fight. Meliodas talks to Elizabeth and Ban punches him on the face. Meliodas grabs him swinging his ugly ass and throws him onto the barrier. Ban attacks back. Meanwhile, King Bartra is finding Elizabeth inside the palace. Suddenly he sees himself floating in air and black shadow surrounds him, and he is then attacked by a mysterious demon. But then he comes to his senses, thinking it was just a dream. Back to the fight, King and Hauser get into an argument which lead to a duo to impress Diane. Ban initiates a brutal attack on Meliodas that somehow weakens most of the spectators. The fight ends in a stalemate after the two of them exchange rapid punches that cause the barrier to break. They remain friends and head back down to the Boar Hat for a drink. Meanwhile, in another location, the man appearing to be Dreyfus is walking through the rain. He recalls the boy telling him the arm appeared to have come from lions. When asked where he thought the arm was going, the boy, comforted by the presence of his father, says it was likely Juhur Valley. The man thanks the boy and kills him and his father so they cannot repeat the story. King still hesitates to confess his feelings for Diane. Meanwhile, Diane leaves the Boar Hat and heads to a construction site in town, recalling the devastating collateral damage she caused due to her immense size. King wakes up and finds Diane, but not seeing her around, he panics. Hauser then tells him that she went to city, so King goes after her. The construction workers there apologize to her and thank her for saving the kingdom. When King comes to see Diane, the two go to the market and eat something there. Seeing Hauser, King takes Diane somewhere else. Diane then decides to play a game of tag across town. King and Diane then join a wedding ceremony outside a church. It is interrupted when a blood-awakened demon appears and attacks the groom. Diane kicks the demon and saves the groom. The demon attacks them and they manage to survive the attack. Diane then hits the demon in the face and the demon grabs Diane to eat her. Seeing this, King rushes and attacks the demon, defeating it. He then catches Diane midair. King asks Diane if she regained her memories, and she answers him with a kiss on his cheek. The moment is ruined when a brick suddenly falls on his head, and he later wakes up next to her, having forgotten what he did during the day. The winged arm reaches Yuhur Valley and falls deep inside Dark Place, and coughs up the coffin of eternal darkness before dying. Close to it, Hendrickson is revealed to have survived Meliodas' revenge counter, but leaving him nearly as dead, tries to reach for the artifact. He collapses before he can reach it, seemingly unable to fulfill his objective. In a dream, Hendrickson awakens in his human body unharmed. With him is Dreyfus. Unwittingly, Hendrickson starts crying as he had done so much he could never be forgiven for, some of which involved and he just wanted to die. He asks why Dreyfus would not just let him go. In response, Dreyfus kneels beside him and bites his arm, letting his blood fall into Hendrickson's mouth, revitalizing him. Hendrickson awakens, wounds fully healed. Nearby, Dreyfus, with a strange mark on his face, drops the bandage stained with Elizabeth's blood that he got in his previous fight with Hendrickson. With the blood of the Apostle of the Goddesses, Hendrickson now has all the ingredients to revive the demon clan. In Boar Hat, Meliodas didn't have much customers, so in order to speed up his business, he asked Merlin to be a waitress for his Boar Hat. Merlin agrees to be a waitress at the Boar Hat, in exchange for Meliodas and Gowther following Gilthunder to find out if he is being stalked by someone. Meanwhile, Gilthunder, Hauser, and Gryamore are walking down the street, when Meliodas and Gowther stalk them as they were asked to do. Just then, a brick falls on Hauser's head. As the two laugh, another brick falls on Gryamore's head. As they head forward, a steel sign logo was just about to hit Hauser when Gilthunder puts himself on top of Hauser, but both are saved by Gowther just in time. Gowther is distracted by a boy named Pelliot who asks him what they were doing, to which Gowther introduces himself as member of 7 Deadly Sins, but the boy wasn't buying his bullshit and asks to retrieve a fat cat off a roof. So Gowther uses his magic and retrieves the cat. Since Gowther reminds Pelliot of his mother, who recently passed away, Gowther transforms into Pelliot's mother for a moment and the boy hugs him and cries. Just then his father arrives and Gowther disappears when Pelliot looks back. Gowther hides and watches in confusion as Pelliot starts to cry and call for his mother, having thought he was doing something good. Gilthunder, Hauser, and Gryamore go to the restaurant, and when the waitress brings tea, a figure appears putting something in the tea. Meliodas finds them at a restaurant and then purposely spills tea on the figure, who is exposed to be Vivian, revealed as the stalker. Vivian attacks them, casting a huge fireball, but Meliodas destroys it with just a spoon. They capture her and Merlin tells Gilthunder to punish her as he likes. To which Gilthunder forgives her, but before that Merlin punishes Vivian by planting a cursed ring on her finger, which will bring pain to her each time the curse is activated. And Merlin explains that the 10 Commandments are the highest class in the demon race. She tells Vivian that there are way more stronger demons that Hendrickson wants to revive. At the Boar Hat, Merlin becomes a waitress and the house is full. She then quits her job as a waitress, while Hawk and Gowther fill in for the position, much to the guys' dismay. Bartra Lyons gathers the sins and explains a premonition he saw with his power vision involving 10 shadows, and that a menace is looming over Camelot. Meanwhile, Hendrickson succeeds in performing the ritual to release the seal on the demon clan. A pillar of pink light shoots into the sky. Elizabeth had a dream in which she saw Meliodas fighting with the demon clan. She then sees she was on a journey with Meliodas and the others. Elizabeth goes and greets her father, Bartra Lyons. He makes a comment about her complexion and she tells him about her bad dream. He tells her about how he plans on giving the 7 Deadly Sins medals since they helped the kingdom achieve this newfound peace. Elizabeth goes and tells Hawk. Meliodas appears and shows the two of them his new clothing courtesy of Elizabeth. Gowther arrives and displays his new outfit as well. King comes to see what all the fuss is about, and Hawk notices that he has a new helmet. Diane tells them to come outside and shows off her new outfit courtesy of Merlin. Ban walks outside and Diane quickly notices that he isn't wearing the outfit she and King picked out for him. Ban says he'll put it on later if it's cool. Meliodas tells everyone that they should celebrate since the ceremony is tomorrow. During the celebration, Ban asks Meliodas to come with him outside. Ban announces that he's quitting and that today is his last day in the 7 Deadly Sins. The next morning, Ban leaves without saying goodbye. King does manage to see him before he leaves and asks where he's going. He tells King that he's going to the Fairy King's forest. Later, the 7 Deadly Sins minus King and Ban attend the ceremony. Also attending are Gryamore, Gilthunder, and Hauser. The crowd wonders what they're doing here. Before King Bartra can hand out the medals, Meliodas objects. He tells the crowd that if they have something to say to him, then to say it to his face. Then in order of holy knights, the Pleiades of the azure sky step forward and approach Meliodas. The 3 present are Deathpierce, Waelo, and Dagito. The Pleiades asks that Meliodas and the 7 Deadly Sins display their power for them, or else they can't accept that they deserve the medals. The king gives them his permission. Dagito goes first and Hawk tells Meliodas his stats. Gowther notices that Hawk is wearing a new earring. Merlin tells him that it was a gift from her and that it allows Hawk to see other people's power levels. Dogito starts throwing punches, but Meliodas avoids them all. Dogito tries to goad him on by mentioning Hendrickson and Dreyfus and says that defeating Hendrickson and Dreyfus should have been an easy task. But Meliodas tells him that they wouldn't stand a chance against them. This angers Dogito and he starts throwing punches again, but Meliodas still manages to break all of Dogito's fingers before hitting him in face and defeating him with ease. Meliodas asks who's next, but Deathpierce tells him that that demonstration was all it took to change their minds. They take their leave and Hawk assumes it's because Meliodas' power level outmatches theirs. The 7 deadly sins get their medals. Elizabeth asks what they do with King's and Ban's medals. Meliodas tells her to hold on to them, that they've left. Elizabeth realizes that it's just like in her dream, but believes that she's overthinking everything. Diane asks what's wrong, and Elizabeth asks her if she knows why Ban and King left. Diane says that she doesn't know and that Meliodas won't say anything. King asks Ban why he'd go to the Fairy King's forest now. Ban says it's none of his business and to go bother someone else. King says he isn't leaving until Ban tells him the truth. The 7 deadly sins run into Gryamore, Gilthunder, and Hauser. Gryamore still can't believe that Dreyfus killed members of the Dawn Roar. He believes that it's a mistake and that he was murdered. Hauser wants to believe that, but that's the facts. Merlin tells them to figure it out for themselves. While leaving, Meliodas calls them the trio of troublemakers, to which they think, and Gryamore laughs, saying that when they were young boys they used to create troubles a lot. Hauser agrees that they should try and search for the truth. Gilthunder says they can begin by looking in Dreyfus's room. Diane asks Meliodas if he's figured out the king's new omen yet. Meliodas says no, but that he thinks it has something to do with the kingdom of Camelot. Suddenly, the ground shakes. Meliodas realizes that they've come back. Hendrickson wakes up and finds Dreyfus standing over him. Dreyfus tells him that the ceremony is complete. The entity inside Dreyfus tells him that he'll let him live, as that's what Dreyfus wanted him to do. Hendrickson is confused, and Dreyfus tells him it's been 3,000 years, but they've finally returned. Zeldris tells Hendrickson that he hopes Meliodas is still alive and that he'll see him soon. Frodrin stands before the 10 Commandments. He's using Dreyfus' body. Gloxinia asks why they were the only ones who managed to escape. He tells them that he only had so much blood from Elizabeth to break the seal. Galland asks Frodrin what he's been doing for these past years. Frodrin tells them that he had a lot of things to sort out and that he's only been self-aware for just 10 years. He also mentions that he was up against the 7 deadly sins. Zeldris mentions Meliodas. They decide to head to the Kingdom of Edinburgh to rest there once they arrive, since the goddess seal has depleted most of their powers. Ban and King continue heading to the Fairy King's forest when they realize that they are being followed by Jericho. Suddenly, a bunch of fog rolls in. Jericho rushes up and grabs Ban's arm. It clears and reveals the Fairy King's forest. It has regrown and is still alive. A few fairies are excited because the Fairy King has returned, but when they realize it's King, they get upset because they feel like he abandoned them all those years ago. The fairies disperse, although one hangs back and tells King about how Elaine entrusted Ban with a great tree's seed. That thanks to Ban, the forest was revived. Ban says that it was no big deal and the fairies greet him as the great Fairy King. Ban continues to walk towards Elaine's grave, where she lays amongst a bed of flowers. King flies away, but Ban picks her up and tells her that he'll find some way to bring her back. The other fairies offer to help, and Ban says that they can help by stopping calling him King. That King is their real king. The fairies refuse to believe it. Elizabeth and Margaret meet Veronica, who's saying goodbye to Gryamore, Gilthunder, and Hauser. Apparently they are going on a quest. They're leaving to find evidence to prove that the Dreyfus who hurt Elizabeth was really an imposter. They leave and Veronica asks if Elizabeth has everything squared away with Meliodas. Elizabeth goes to the Boar Hat and asks Meliodas if he's going on another quest. He says yes, and she says that she'll go get her things. Meliodas tells her that there is no need. Elizabeth comments that he's acting strangely, but then he lifts up her skirt. Hawk saves her. Elizabeth goes to talk to Diane about Meliodas. She mentions how Meliodas is acting strange, and Diane asks if she's in love with him. Elizabeth says that she does, but she can't tell him. Diane says that she must, and Elizabeth asks if something happened. Diane tells her that she finally remembers what happened, and that she didn't get a chance to tell King how she feels. King wanders the forest upset because he didn't have the courage to see Elaine. The other fairies begin to throw rocks at him, but Oslo makes them stop by roaring loudly. King believes that they're right. He did abandon them to save the people that he cared about. He's confused because he doesn't know what he is anymore. He isn't a king, and he isn't a 7 deadly sin since there is peace. He starts to cry and puts Helbram's helmet on. Suddenly, Helbram is standing before him. Apparently, his spirit now resides within the helmet. Helbram tells her that Elaine told him to stick around and for King to protect Ban. Ban tells King that he's leaving the forest to go find a way to bring Elaine back. Jericho tells him that she's going with him since she owes him her life. King continues to follow him, but Ban tells him to go back because he has someone waiting for him, Diane. King doesn't believe him, but Ban tells him the story of when she said she'd die if he ever left. Hearing this, King gets astonished, and Ban tells him to go to Diane. Meanwhile, Diane tells Elizabeth that she's going to tell King that she loves him. Elizabeth is envious because their feelings are mutual. Diane tells Elizabeth to just tell Meliodas how she feels. Elizabeth tells her that it's okay because he already has someone, that's Liz. Merlin gives some pills to Gauther, but he drops them after going outside. Meliodas tells him that they're going to be leaving tomorrow or the day after. Gauther says he isn't going and leaves to go meet up with Gilla. Meliodas goes inside to talk with Merlin. Meliodas asks for her to return something that she stole from him 10 years ago. He tells her that the demon's seal has been broken. Merlin hypothesizes that Hendrickson may be still alive. Diane and Elizabeth run up to Gilla and Gowther with Zeal, Gilla's brother, but Gilla doesn't remember having a brother. She points at Gowther and says that he's the only family that she has. Gowther reveals that he manipulated Gilla's memories because he is studying love. Diane tells him that he can't just replace Gilla's memories, that her memories of her brother are precious. Diane tells Elizabeth to go get Meliodas and Merlin. Gowther attacks Elizabeth, but Diane defends it. Gowther then uses a spell that knocks out many people who had very low spirits. Gowther believes that memories are just information, easily deleted and replaced. Diane tells him that they aren't. Gowther goes to attack her, but Diane sends spikes of earth at him. Elizabeth is dreaming of looking for Meliodas when the real Meliodas wakes her up. She asks how she got here, and Meliodas explains how Gowther made everyone in the kingdom black out all at once. Meanwhile, Diane and Gowther continue to fight each other. Diane summons two giants and they attack Gowther, but he uses a spell to hijack the giants. Diane finally has enough and punches Gowther while telling him to snap out of it. Meliodas shows up after the fight and finds both Diane and Gowther sitting on the ground. Meliodas asks Gowther if he knows what he's done. Gowther tells them to lock him up before he stops being himself. Meliodas tells Merlin that they can finish their talk later. The 10 Commandments are staring down into a pit that is 30,000 feet deep. Zeldris knows that Meliodas did this. He wonders what he could have been doing out here. Melascula tells Zeldris to relax and enjoy themselves since they haven't been here in years. Zeldris asks Esterossa what he thinks. Gowther returns Gilla's and Zeal's memories. Gowther apologizes and Gilla thanks him for giving back the memories of her father to her. She tells him goodbye before she and Zeal leave. Gowther sighs because he got dumped. Slater appears and Merlin tells him that she has a favor to ask of him. She turns to Gowther and uses her magic on him. He shrinks until she's able to pick him up. She reveals that Gowther is actually a doll created by a great magician. She asks Slater to look after him while they are away on a mission. Slater agrees. Back at the Boar Hat, Diane asks Meliodas if he knew that Gowther was a doll. He says no, that he just found out today. Diane clutches her head as her eyes flash purple, but nobody else notices. Meliodas asks Slater if he can stick around for a while since they're missing two of their guys now. Slater accepts and Elizabeth takes this time to ask if she can come too. Meliodas says that there is no reason to put herself in danger. Elizabeth yells at him and says that she thought they were in this together. She asks if she's just baggage that is weighing him down. Meliodas says that's right and Elizabeth runs out of the room. Hawk and Diane beat up Meliodas for saying that. Outside, Slater talks to Elizabeth. She tells him that she knows Meliodas is just concerned for her, but that she wants to prove that she can help too. Slater suggests that she show him that she can by the actions that she takes. They go back inside and Merlin tells them that they are going to the kingdom of Camelot. Merlin teleports the Boar Hat to right to the air above Camelot. A giant golem stands before the kingdom and watches as it approaches. Meliodas says it's an Albion, a great beast that was created by the demon clan. He believes that it woke up when the 10 Commandments were brought back. The golem senses their power and attacks them but misses. Instead, he hits the barrier that Merlin has put around the city. Merlin thinks that it'll only last being hit 2 more times. The golem hits it twice and the barrier disappears. Arthur Pendragon directs his holy knights to attack the golem. They survive the first blast, but the second blast is too big, so Arthur tells them to take cover. Meliodas has Merlin send him down there and he uses his reflective magic to send the attack back to the golem. Merlin flies Hawk Mama and the Boar's Hat around the golem, creating an opportunity for Meliodas to climb up the golem. Arthur and the holy knights follow. Arthur gets caught by the golem, but Meliodas frees him. In the process, he breaks his sword. Meliodas is amazed that it lasts this long. Merlin decides at this time to return his sacred treasure, Lostvein. Meliodas uses the sword to cut off one of the golem's arms. The golem begins to mutate and creates 5 cannons that extend out of its body. Meliodas uses his weapon's special ability to make copies of himself as the golem prepares to attack. Once it attacks, all 5 copies of Meliodas use full counter to send it back to the golem again. The attack destroys the upper part of the golem. King tells Oslo to create a portal to the Kingdom of Lions and asks Jericho if she's going to come with him. Jericho tells him to leave her alone, that she isn't a holy knight anymore and is tired of living with her brother. Suddenly, the forest starts to grow. King wonders how because the Fountain of Youth no longer exists. En tells King that a man comes once every few years to replenish the forest. King realizes that this man is Ban. Ban pours out his blood before Elaine's altar. A fairy thanks him because the forest will soon be restored. Ban asks if she were the ruler of this place, wouldn't that make the other fairies happy? The fairy tells him that it doesn't work that way, that the fairy king is chosen by the sacred tree. Ban says that he isn't qualified. The fairy knows this and tells him that King should be leading them. The ground starts to shake and King thinks that the forest is going to grow again. In reality, another Albion has appeared outside of the forest. Hendrickson struggles to walk through the forest. He must return to the Kingdom of Lions to warn them about the 10 Commandments before they return to full strength. Hendrickson collapses onto the ground and vows to bring back the real Dreyfus one day. The Albion continues to walk towards the Fairy King's forest. Jericho can't believe how tall the Albion is, it's bigger than the sacred tree. The fairies try to stop it, but the Albion continues to attack. Jericho runs to tell Ban about what's happening. Suddenly, the sunflower that blooms on the sacred tree begins to fire at the Albion's face. The The fairies look and find King hovering above the sunflower with his arm outstretched. The Albion fires a laser beam at the sunflower, but King retaliates with his own. The two beams meet in the middle, but the Albion's is stronger and knocks King down. The other fairies watch as King stands up and wonder why he's helping them since they were so mean to him. King tells the Albion that he isn't going to let him destroy his homeland. Jericho runs into the tunnel to tell Ban but finds the way blocked. Ban tells Jurhead that he understands why they must hate him because of what the humans had planned to do with their forest. The fairy surprisingly tells him that she's grateful to him because he resurrected this place all on his own. But she goes on to tell him that the only person who can be king is King. She attacks Ban, but Ban evades her attacks while telling her that he has no interest in being king. Ban tells Jurhead that he plans on leaving the forest. She doesn't accept that and attacks Elaine's body. Meanwhile, Jericho tries to bring down the barrier but has had no luck so far. She pulls her sword from its sheath and begins to cut the vines. Finally, she's able to make it through. She finds Ban impaled and hanging above Elaine. Jurhead says that he'll remain here forever as the forest's new fountain of youth. Jericho tries to wake up Ban, while the tiny fairy that accompanied Jericho tells Jurhead what's going on outside. Jurhead flies outside and can't believe that she's seeing an Albion since they've supposedly been sealed away for the past 3,000 years. King continues to battle the Albion. He swears that he won't let that thing defeat him because he has to return to Diane. The Albion strikes and King falls from the sky. Jurhead tells him that she'll help him, but just as she does, the Albion strikes the sacred tree, cutting it in half. King sees Ban impaled, holding Elaine's body. The other fairies decide to join in on the attack. They tell King to get away and to safety because they'll take care of it. King isn't sure, but Jurhead pulls him away against his will. Elshi tells him that he has to survive because they don't know what will happen if the fairy king dies. Helbram appears and tells King the same thing. King starts crying but stops and raises his hand to try one more time. He starts to glow and reminds himself of all the people that love him. He then uses his full power to create a large spear. He throws it at the Albion and it explodes. King is unconscious after having used so much power and floats in the air as the Albion dissipates. Fraudrin tells Zeldris that 2 of their Albion have been destroyed. Galen can't believe that there are still people who defy the demon clan. Melascula asks Galen if he's really going to go out there with his magic depleted. Galen says he sees it as a warm-up. Zeldris tells him that it's that type of arrogance that got them sealed away in the first place. Gloxinia gives Galen some advice on where to go before he shoots up into the sky. Meliodas explains to Arthur Pendragon about how the 10 Commandments have been released and that that's why the Albion appeared. Diane wonders if they'll stand a chance going up against the 10 Commandments. Slater says that Hendrickson was easy in comparison. He asks for Gowther's opinion and Diane's eyes glow purple. She rubs at her head because it suddenly felt fuzzy. Hawk says that as long as they have Meliodas' attack move, they should be able to take anybody down. Meliodas demonstrates his new attack by creating multiple clones. They all fondle Elizabeth and after are beat up by Diane and Slater. Merlin says that there is no other sacred treasure fit for Meliodas besides Lostfane. Elizabeth is upset because Meliodas doesn't need her at all and there's nothing she can do about it. Suddenly there's a sound like thunder and then something lands before them. Dust clouds the air as Meliodas protects Elizabeth and Merlin stands in front of Arthur. As it clears, Galland is revealed. Hawk is confused by the power level that he has. She tells Merlin that her earring must be malfunctioning because he can't have a power level of 26,000. Galland stands in front of what's left of the 7 deadly sins and Arthur's men. They can't believe that he has a power level of 26,000. Merlin asks Hawk what his magical power is. Hawk says it's 0 and wonders if the magical eye earring is busted. Merlin believes that that's because of the lingering effects of the seal. Diane believes that they should attack now because of this. Meanwhile, the sacred tree has been restored even after it was destroyed by the Albion. King is unconscious on the ground with his head in Jurhead's lap. Ban stands over him and drips some of his blood in his mouth. King's wounds vanish and he wakes up. The fairies rejoice that the fairy king has woken up. King is confused, but Jurhead tells him that the only person meant to lead them is King. Ban is happy to hand over the title and prepares to leave. Jurhead tries to apologize for what she did to him. He grabs her by the collar and tells her that if she ever tries to hurt Elaine again, that he'll kill her. Ban throws her down and starts to walk away with Jericho on his heels. King calls out to him and asks him if he's really not going to go back with him to the 7 deadly sins. Ban says for King to tell them hi for him before he keeps walking. Galen uses his glaive and destroys most of the city to create more room for them to fight. He tells Meliodas that he's waited eagerly to fight him one-on-one. Meliodas attacks with Lostfane, but Galen stabs him through the gut. 2 other Meliodas attack, but Galen cuts their heads off. One more attacks from behind while the real Meliodas attacks from above. Galen grabs him and holds him by the throat. This upsets Diane, who runs at the 2. As she does, Merlin changes her back into a giant. Diane raises Gideon and slams it down only to have Galen kick it back up at her. It hits her head and falls to the ground. Merlin uses a spell to teleport Galen away so that they have time to strategize. Or so they thought. In reality, Galen leapt beyond her range of power. Merlin assumes that he retreated, but then he appears behind her. Arthur tells her to run, but Slater jumps in front of her. He readies to attack, but Galen strikes first, sending Slater flying. He lands with one of his arms torn off. Merlin offers to make a deal with Galen. She keeps talking to him as she tries to think of a plan. Galen realizes that she's lying to him and turns her into stone. He is Galen of truth, and to speak a lie in his presence will automatically turn the person into stone. Meliodas attacks Galen, giving Slater enough time to grab Merlin and run. The other Holy Knights decide to help, so they follow Meliodas onto the battlefield. Galen takes them out easily. Meliodas continues to attack but gets both his arms cut off in the process. Meliodas uses his demon powers to reattach his arms. As he walks towards Galen, his arms become surrounded by purple fire and on his face appears a tattoo. Meanwhile, Melascula says that since they returned, she's noticed that something is off. Zeldris says that he can sense it too, that the magical power that was so plentiful 3,000 years ago has dried up. He muses that that's the reason why it's taking them so long to regain their powers. Monspeed says that power was the reason the 5 clans went to war all those years ago. Frodrin says that it's fine. 2 humans arrive and tell the 10 commandments to leave because this is their spot. Diriri jumps down and steals one of the men's soul. She puts it in her mouth and eats it. They decide that they'll continue to eat souls because they'll be able to gain back their power and their ability to take out swarms of humans. Melascula sends her power to find a nearby human village so that they can eat all their souls. Meliodas attacks Galen and actually harms him now that he's using his demon powers. Diane asks if he's okay, but Meliodas mumbles to himself to not let the darkness swallow him. Meliodas surrounds Galen in power, but Galen notes that his power has weakened and is able to throw his weapon through the barrier. It pierces Meliodas' stomach and hits the ground. Meliodas slides down the pole and hangs there. Galen retrieves his weapon and stabs Meliodas through the eye. He then goes and stabs Slater, who is protecting Merlin, but her head falls off due to the action. Galen also slashes at Diane. He approaches both Elizabeth and Arthur, who Merlin has kept in protective boxes. He slashes at the boxes, but they don't break apart. Galen is impressed and tells them that today is their lucky day before he shoots up into the sky and flies away. Elizabeth and Hawk notice someone walking towards them through the dust. It turns out to be Gauther, who laughs and laughs at what he's witnessed. Gryamore, Gilthunder, and Hauser are riding down a road when they come upon a group of peddlers. Gilthunder senses that something is wrong and goes to investigate. The peddlers are alive, but it's like they're just a shell with no substance. Gryamore suggests they carry them to the village when they hear a scream. In the village, a monster chases after people collecting their souls. The 3 holy knights appear, and with the help of their powers, they manage to defeat the demon in no time. The villagers' souls are returned to them once the monster is destroyed. Just as they're about to celebrate, another monster appears. Hendrickson walks up behind them and tells the trio that that monster is a gray demon. He says that it's going to take the 4 of them to beat it, so they might as well join forces. Gilthunder asks how Hendrickson is still alive. Gryamore is in shock at seeing Hendrickson, having believed that Meliodas had defeated him. He says that Hendrickson killed his father, but Gilthunder tries to tell him that now is not the time to avenge him. Suddenly, the gray demon attacks and Hendrickson tackles Gryamore to the ground to avoid it. Hendrickson reveals to Gryamore that Dreyfus is still alive. Gryamore doesn't believe him. Hendrickson tells the trio of holy knights that they need to help get him as close as possible to the gray demon. Hauser asks Gilthunder what they should do. Meanwhile, the gray demon is summoning a new attack that will kill them instantly if it touches them. Gilthunder and Hauser attack the demon, but it retaliates with an attack so powerful that it clears the area around it of houses. Gryamore shields them but fails to protect Hendrickson too. Gilthunder realizes that the demon is the same type of demon that Hendrickson had fused with. Hendrickson attacks the demon on his own and gets knocked down. The gray demon is about to smash him with his hand when Hauser blocks his path and obliterates its hand with his magic. Gilthunder then goes for the middle while Hendrickson jumps up on top of the demon and uses his magic to destroy the demon by just touching its forehead. He used his magic to purge an unnatural soul of the demon's body. Gilthunder is confused because that was his father's power. Hendrickson explains that Zarathras was born a druid known as the Sages of the Forest who worship the goddess. Hendrickson says that Zarathras was a true holy knight grand master. Gilthunder grabs him and asks why he killed Zarathras if he thought so highly of him. Hendrickson tells him that it began 10 years ago when Dreyfus and he went to investigate the collapse of Kingdom of Danafer. While investigating, they came into contact with an unnatural presence. It offered to make their dreams of becoming a grandmaster and the most powerful holy knight come true if they gave it use of their bodies. Both decline the offer, so the demon decides to take it by force. It attacks Dreyfus but is unable to take over since he's able to resist the demon's manipulation spell. It decides instead to inhabit Hendrickson. Dreyfus tells the demon to get out of his friend's body and even threatens to kill him. The demon says that he can try, but that it'll only be Hendrickson that dies. The demon asks if they're going to kill each other or crawl out of this hole and get a drink. Dreyfus drops his sword and swears that if the demon kills Hendrickson that he will kill him. The demon guarantees Hendrickson's safety and transfers itself to Dreyfus's body. The 2 of them climb out of the hole and head back to the kingdom. Hendrickson tells the trio of holy knights that by then his mind was under the demon's spell. He reveals that Dreyfus and he conspired to kill Zarathras because they believed he posed a threat to them, and how they framed the 7 deadly sins for the crime and had them exiled. They ask why they framed the sins. Hendrickson says that it was because the demon had battled Meliodas in Danafer and fled in defeat. He waited and regained his powers, choosing Dreyfus as his host body to enact his revenge. Hendrickson reveals that the demon's name is Frodrin and that he is responsible for killing the love of Meliodas' life. Meliodas apologizes to Liz for not being able to protect her. Liz tells him that they'll meet again. Meliodas opens his eyes to find Elizabeth standing over him. She jumps on him and he asks where everyone else is. She tells them that everyone's fine. Slater got his arm reattached. Arthur cries over Merlin because he wasn't able to protect her. Meliodas and Elizabeth walk in. Meliodas is curious as to why Galen left them alive. Gowther says that he manipulated Galen's memories into thinking that he killed all of them. Gowther shows them a bracelet that he wears on his wrist that'll keep him from losing control. Merlin says she put it on Gowther when he wasn't looking. They all turn to see if Merlin has returned to normal, but she's only speaking through her orb Alden. She tells them that she was able to transfer her soul to it before she turned to stone completely. Merlin says that the commandment can't be reversed and that the only thing that could challenge it would be the goddess clan. She goes on to say that Galen is extremely powerful even with his magical powers depleted, and that their combined strength wasn't enough to beat him. Slater reminds them that there are 10 members in the 10 commandments. Meliodas says that they have to come up with a strategy. Elizabeth asks Hawk how they beat the 10 commandments years ago. Hawk says that they were more powerful. Merlin agrees and says that our knights are weak since they have peace and don't need to train. She tells them that for them to win, they must become stronger. She assesses their power levels. Meliodas has 3370, Diane has 3250, Gowther has 3100, Merlin has 4710, King has 4190, Ban has 3220, making it a total of 21,840. Merlin says that if the 10 commandments are as powerful as Galen, then their total power level would be 260,000. Merlin says that both Elizabeth and Arthur have to awaken their magic. Arthur is hesitant because he couldn't even protect Merlin, while Elizabeth, coming to terms with her current lack of strength, says that she'll do whatever it takes and that she won't let them down, to Arthur's shock. Merlin says that they also must search for the 7th sin, Eskinner. Meliodas agrees and says that he's going to go check on Diane. Elizabeth and Meliodas are walking down a hallway when King appears through a portal. Hawk is upset with him because he bylaid on them when they needed him to fight the demons, and King exclaims that he fought some too. He asks if Diane is hurt and flies to go see her. She's laying down but wakes up when they all arrive. King starts to talk to her, but Diane asks if they know each other, shocking him. Diane doesn't recognize King or Elizabeth but does know who Meliodas is. Merlin says that Diane's memory loss could be because of the blunt force trauma to her head. Hawk asks if Merlin got her body back, but Merlin tells her that this is just an illusion. Meliodas says that it's been a long time since Diane called him by his first name instead of Captain. Hawk is sad for King but also almost got eaten by Diane. Diane and King sit side by side. King begins to tell her about his feelings when Diane's eyes begin to glow purple and she forgets about Meliodas. King tries to tell her who Meliodas and the 7 deadly sins are, but she's forgotten that too. King goes to tell Merlin and they decide that for now they'll just observe her. But when they go to see her, she's disappeared. King wonders where she could have gone and Gowther tells them that she's going to where she used to live before she joined the 7 deadly sins. Gowther reveals that he erased Diane's memories as a test. King asks him if he felt anything when he removed the memories, and Gowther says that feelings aren't necessary for that. King tells Gowther that he's disappointed in him because a person's heart isn't a plaything. He punches Gowther into the wall. King asks Meliodas if he can go look for her, and Meliodas says that they'll all go look for her. Slater grabs Gowther and calls him an idiot. On the Hawk Mama, Meliodas tells them that Diane is heading to Megadozer because she used to live there. King swears that he'll get Diane's memories back. As Diane runs back to her home, she remembers a battle that she fought in which she was with Dolores, who was afraid to fight, and Matrona, who was very brave. They fought against the barbarians and won the battle. After that, they return to their home where they are greeted by other giants. Matrona asks Diane and Dolores what happened out on the battlefield and how many humans did they kill. She says that there will come a time when they'll regret not finishing them off completely. Diane believes that killing them because they might hurt her is ridiculous, and she wants to know why they have to help the humans fight each other. Matrona says that they're coexisting. Matrona says that seeking out warfare is their duty and death by combat is their greatest desire. She goes on to say that winning the battle is the only justice there is. Matrona trains with Dolores and Diane. Dolores doesn't fare well, but Diane holds out much longer. Dolores stands in front of Diane and tells Matrona no more. Matrona tells her to have a child then and to contribute to their race. Later, Dolores tells Diane that she's going to leave their homeland because she hates battle. Dolores asks if Matrona really meant it, that if she had a baby she'd be excused from battle. Diane says that that isn't a good reason to have a baby. Diane overhears Matrona telling other giants that she's going to train Diane to be one of their strongest warriors. This prompts Diane to go and tell Dolores that she'll leave with her. Dolores tells her that she changed her mind and isn't going anywhere. Diane leaves on her own but is stopped by some humans who tells her she has to pay to use their road. Suddenly, a man appears and beats them up for having treated Diane badly. It is Meliodas and he invites her to have lunch with him. He tells her to come visit him in Kingdom of Lions sometime. Diane tells him that she wouldn't fit in. Meliodas says that that's okay because all of his friends are different too. They say goodbye and Diane rushes home to tell Dolores. But when she gets home, she learns that Dolores has been killed by bandits. Diane asks who sent her out there and Matrona says it was her. Diane punches Matrona and Matrona punches her right back. Matrona asks Diane if she's like Dolores. Diane says if push comes to shove then yes, she'd fight, but it would be to protect someone she cares about. Matrona disagrees with her and asks her who put those thoughts in her head. She reminds Diane that she's part of the giant race, not the others. Diane goes outside and looks up at the moon. She gets flashes of memories about her and King. She wishes that she could live with Meliodas. The next day, Diane and Matrona arrive at the battlefield to help the Lion's soldiers. The leader tells Matrona that the enemy has made themselves invisible. He hears something and directs Matrona in that direction and then another. The second time she falls into a trap and boulders fall on top of her. The leader reveals that their plan was to take down the giants all along. They are about to attack Diane when Matrona uses her power on the army. The leader has his army fire arrows at the two giants. Matrona notices they are coated with something and steps in front of one meant for Diane. Matrona collapses having been dosed with dragon poison. She uses her magic to injure the leader before she falls into Diane's arms. Matrona tells Diane that her parents wanted her to raise Diane as her younger sister. She tells her the only thing she knows how to do is fight, and she really could only teach her that. Matrona says that Diane has to protect herself now and to be cold-hearted. Diane says she can't do that because she isn't like her. The leader of the lion's soldiers goes to attack again, but Matrona takes care of them once and for all. Right before she dies, Matrona tells Diane that if she really pushed herself, she'd be the best warrior. Diane cries as she holds Matrona. Two soldiers that survived say that they must go back to Lions and report what happened. Diane is captured and is taken back to Lions, where she is sentenced to death, but Meliodas appears with Majesty Order and saves her. Hawkmama carries the 7 deadly sins towards Megadozer in search of Diane. King asks Merlin if she could just teleport them there. Merlin says that she can't because she's too focused on keeping her soul in Alden. Plus, she'd like to keep some of her magic in case of an emergency. Meanwhile, Galen brags to the other 10 commandments about having killed Meliodas and his gang. Fraudrin is surprised because he can't believe that Meliodas could be brought down so easily. Galen decides to go on a walk. Diane continues to walk towards Megadozer, intent on telling everyone that Matrona protected her when she runs into Galen. He swears that he killed her. She tries to run away from him but is blocked by Monspeed. Monspeed is interested in eating her soul because it could help restore his powers. Diane tells them both to leave her alone because she's never seen them before. She doesn't turn to stone for lying because she truly can't remember meeting Galen. Galen says that this time he will kill her and attacks her by kicking her in the stomach. She falls to the ground. Monspeed is about to help himself to her soul when a spike of earth sends him flying. The same magic is used to encase Galen in a prison brick. Meliodas forces Hawkmama to stop because he senses Monspeed and Galen, but he also senses another person that has a power that he hasn't come across before. The smoke clears and Diane sees someone who looks like Matrona. She's so relieved that Matrona is alive that she's caught off guard when the other giant punches her in the stomach and knocks her out. The giantess hoists Diane over her shoulder and hides just as Galen breaks out of his stone prison. He can't find the two giants, so he starts attacking the ground in hopes of drawing them out of hiding. Monspeed gets up off the ground and senses Meliodas' approach. He sends his magical power out to find the group of concentrated power. Meliodas tells Hawkmama to change course, but the magic does the same as if it's pursuing them. Meliodas is hesitant to use his signature move because then they'll know exactly where he is, but it doesn't look like he has a choice. Hawkmama changes direction and goes straight towards the oncoming magic despite Hawk telling her not to. Hawkmama opens her mouth and swallows the magic, much to everyone's surprise. Monspeed is upset because he learned nothing and wasted what little magic he had on that endeavor. Galen is unable to find Diane and the other giant, but is sure that he wounded them. Merlin suggests that they change course because Diane's presence has faded. She believes that if they continue on, they'd be putting Diane and the person helping her in danger. Meliodas asks Merlin if she has another direction in mind. Merlin tells him that they need to start powering up, and in order to do that, she's going to return the power she stole from him. She explains that 10 years ago, a certain young girl was injured trying to help them, and the captain started to lose control. For everyone's safety, she separated his strength from him. Merlin tells him that they're going to need that power back if they're going to battle the 10 Commandments. Meliodas asks where the power is now, and Merlin says it's in Istar. They arrive in Istar, the holy land of the Druids. Elizabeth knows that they are in the right place, but that there are only stones here. She keeps walking and passes through a gate that reveals an island with 2 large structures on it. Meliodas says that the gate has been left open, and Merlin explains that they need the spellcaster's permission to walk through. 3 of the Druid chiefs are there waiting for them, having sensed their arrival. They are Jenna and Xanari with their priest Theo. They tell them why they are there, but they already know everything. Gauther and Arthur hang back. Xanari leads Meliodas and Elizabeth to the tower on the right. When they go inside, Meliodas asks if his power is in there. Xanari says yes, but that he'll have to go through a trial to retrieve it. Xanari is worried that he might be able to take it, but Meliodas says that it just pushes him even harder to face the trial. Xanari summons her magic, and Meliodas is transported to when he was captain of the Holy Knights at the Kingdom of Danafer. He hears a voice behind him and turns to see Liz. Galland asks Melascula where she's been, and she says that she's just been having a little fun. In Ivanloke, Ban hits another dead end when it comes to finding a way to bring back Elaine. The man does tell him that he heard a rumor that someone in a nearby town was brought back to life. Ban asks which town, and he says Ravens. Jericho and Ban head in that direction. Elizabeth asks Xanari why Meliodas is acting so strangely. Xanari says that this is the Tower of Trials, and Elizabeth asks if this is what he has to do to get his power back. Xanari nods and explains that he's being tested to see if his soul is worthy of the power taken from him. She hands Elizabeth a goblet filled with soil. Xanari tells Elizabeth to make the poison bud within bloom, that if she can't do that, then she'll never be useful in battle. Elizabeth accepts the challenge. Meanwhile, Meliodas wonders why Xanari is showing him this illusion. Meliodas goes home with Liz and they have dinner. They hug, and then Meliodas is taken to the moment when Liz died. His eyes begin to glow purple and he screams as he releases enough magic to destroy the kingdom of Danafer. The illusion resets itself and he's back to standing in the marketplace with Liz. Meliodas realizes what his test is. Elizabeth watches Meliodas struggle and tries to help him, but Xanari tells her that she has her own test. Elizabeth asks Xanari what she's doing to Meliodas, and Xanari says that she's putting him through a living hell. He is reliving the worst and best days of when he was with Liz. With each repetition, he's consumed by wrath and destroys everything around him. Xanari says that this is a test that will kill off his emotions completely, in order to prevent him from letting his emotions dictate his actions. Jenna leads the rest of the 7 deadly sins to the Cave of Training. She tells them that they are all way too fragile and that they need to get into fighting shape to protect this world. She also tells them that another group arrived before they did and that they are acquaintances of theirs. At first, they think it's Ban and Jericho, but then Hendrickson walks out and catches everyone off guard. King goes to attack, but then Hendrickson passes out. Jenna asks that they put their anger for him aside since he's finally gotten back to normal. Arthur points out that something is behind Hendrickson and Hawk goes to investigate. It turns out to be Gryamore, Gilthunder, and Hauser laying in a heap at the cave entrance. Elizabeth and Xanari continue to watch as Meliodas struggles with the trial. Finally, Xanari pulls him out of it unconvinced that he's able to control his emotions. She says that if he keeps at it, his spirit will die, not his emotions. Xanari then scolds Elizabeth for reassuring Meliodas, who asks Xanari to send him back one more time. Xanari says that he won't be able to withstand that kind of stress. Meliodas says that he can take it and that he needs to become stronger for the ones that he needs to protect. Xanari agrees to send him back. Meliodas realizes that he has to let go of his emotions, which means forgetting about Liz. But he just can't do it because forgetting about her is impossible. Xanari goes to pull Meliodas out, but Elizabeth steps in front of him. She tells Xanari to have faith in him. Meliodas vows to never let anything like what happened in Danafor happen. He wakes up from the trial much to Xanari's surprise. He tells her that since he passed, he'll be taking his power back. Jericho wakes up Ban, who fell asleep in the tavern. They leave the tavern and head for an inn. Ban asks the innkeeper about the rumor, but he says that it's probably a lie. They head up to the room where Jericho takes the bed while Ban sleeps on the floor. She asks Ban how he knows so much about ravens. Ban tells her that he used to live here as a kid, but that was a long time ago. Suddenly, they hear a commotion coming from outside. They look out and see a couple of thugs beating up on a hooded figure. Ban tells Jericho to leave it alone until he overhears that the hooded figure may be the person that's been bringing people back to life. Ban intervenes and saves the figure. He brings the figure back to their room. The figure turns out to be a beast man. Ban asks him if the stories about him are true, and the beast man tells him that he doesn't have those type of powers. The beast man goes to leave but collapses, so Jericho gives him her bed. The beast man explains how he has to scrounge around for food and live like vermin. He tells them that they probably never had to do that. Ban remembers when he was a child and had to steal food to survive. He was tossed into prison where he met Zhivago. Jenna revives Gilthunder, Hauser, and Gryamore. King tells Hendrickson that he'll never forgive him for what he did to Helbram. Hendrickson says that he'll accept that, but first he needs to protect Kingdom of Lions and save Dreyfus from the 10 Commandments. Jenna claps her hands and tells them it's time to train. Back to Ban, Zhivago asks about his parents, and he remembers hiding out and eating with Zhivago. Ban remembers how his parents beat him up and tossed him out into the cold. Ban gets tricked by 2 people to get into a barrel for a gold coin. He realizes too late that the coin is fake before they close the lid on the barrel. The kidnappers intend to sell Ban to a noblewoman who will play with him and then kill him when she's done. Along the way, the kidnappers get accosted by Zhivago and Ban escapes. Zhivago and Ban share another meal where Ban thanks Zhivago for the help. Ban asks Zhivago to teach him how to steal. He falls asleep mid-sentence and Zhivago guards him. The next couple of days, Zhivago teaches Ban how to steal and helps Ban escape when he gets caught. Ban asks Zhivago about his son. Zhivago tells him his name is Celian. Zhivago says that he has another son and describes Ban. Ban asks why he only goes to see Celian after sundown. Zhivago says because that way the Holy Knights won't be able to find him. Ban asks if Celian knows he's a thief, and Zhivago says yes. Zhivago tells Ban to never trust humans. Ban says that he only trusts Zhivago. Zhivago hugs him and then tells him to go to bed because they have to be ready for tomorrow's job. The next morning, Ban decides to do the job himself to surprise Zhivago. It goes wrong and he ends up getting beat up. The Beastman tells older Ban that he looks like his son. Jericho asks how this is possible. The Beastman tells Jericho about how he hasn't seen him for 30 years and that he probably hates him. Zhivago remembers how he woke up late on the day of the job. He arrived, he found Ban getting beat up, but also overheard that the Holy Knights had seen a werefox in the mountains. Zhivago had to choose between Celian and Ban. He chose Celian and rushed to his aid. He didn't make it in time and Celian died in his arms. Zhivago wonders if he made a better decision, then maybe he wouldn't have lost everything. Ban tells him that he didn't make the wrong decision. He says that even if Zhivago had saved him, he'd never have forgiven him for abandoning his own flesh and blood. Ban tells him that he never hated Zhivago and that he was the ideal father. They embrace. Jenna tells the group that to train they must leave all their special weapons and be bare when entering the cave. Gowther takes this literally and disposes of all his clothing. She gives them ash staffs to practice with and invites them all to step inside and begin. Hawk leads them inside but gets separated from the group. She runs towards the light. Gilthunder and Hauser face off against a monster. Their normal way of fighting isn't working, so they improvised. They fight the monster with different tricks and tactics, but it doesn't do much damage. Gilthunder manages to strike the monster with lightning, but suddenly they wake up outside of the cave. Jenna tells them that they let up at the end, but that the tactics they used along the way were brilliant. That they have taken the next step in developing their skills. Hendrickson watches from afar. He's so grateful that he didn't kill them. Meliodas comes up to him and thanks him for saving Gryamore, Gilthunder, and Hauser. Meanwhile, Gauther and Arthur fight a suit of armor. Gauther tries to take control of it and ends up getting his head cut off. Gauther hypothesizes that the suit must be controlled by someone else. Arthur looks around and tries to find who is controlling it. King asks Jenna if he can go into the cave of training now. Jenna asks why he had a change of heart. King says that he wants to do all he can to save Diane. Jenna suggests he go in with Hendrickson, but Meliodas volunteers to go in with him instead. While inside, Meliodas asks King to be a little open-minded when it comes to Hendrickson. He explains that Hendrickson was being controlled by Fraudrin when he did all those evil things. King asks who Fraudrin is, and Meliodas tells him that he's part of the 10 Commandments. King asks Meliodas how he knows so much about the 10 Commandments. King assumes that this is because Meliodas is part of the demon race too. He asks if Meliodas really is their ally as he attacks Meliodas with his ash staff. Jenna is watching through the orb as King and Meliodas fight each other. King asks Meliodas to answer the question. Meliodas says that it depends on his definition of an ally. He goes on to say that if Meliodas breaks anyone's trust, then he would be his enemy. They continue fighting and King then uses a spell and wounds Meliodas. Zhivago can't believe that Ban is here. Ban asks him why he didn't tell him that he was a werefox. Zhivago says that he was afraid Ban wouldn't look at him the same way. Jericho starts to cry because she's just so glad that they found each other. Zhivago asks if Jericho is Ban's girlfriend, to which he replies no. Jericho asks what she is then, and Ban says his wallet or little sister. Jericho asks if he even had a little sister. Ban says he did, but she died when she was 4. Zhivago asks Ban how he can look like he's 20 years old if he's sure to be at least 40. Ban tells him that he drank from the fountain he told him about as a kid. That he won't grow old or die. Zhivago remembers when he told Ban the story about the Fountain of Youth. He's shocked to learn that such a thing exists because when he told Ban, he thought it was nothing more than a fairy tale. Zhivago asks Ban if there really was a saint guarding it, and Ban says that she died. A fairy asks Jurhead what's wrong, and she says that there is an ominous air surrounding this area. She says it feels like everything that makes sense in this world is going to be turned upside down. Zhivago tells Ban that he's also heard the rumors about bringing people back from the dead over the last few days, but that he doesn't know anything else about it. Ban says it's alright, that he'll just keep looking. Zhivago says that it must be painful because he can't die anymore and can't follow Elaine to death. Ban says it's painful, but that isn't going to bring Elaine back to life. Zhivago tells him that he's glad that Ban found something that he valued more than himself. Ban says that Jericho is the first human that he's actually willing to tolerate. Zhivago says that he has something else on his mind. Ban tells him that he found both a friend and a lover, but that it couldn't last, that he had to choose between the two of them and he chose to kill his friend. Zhivago asks if he went through with it, and Ban says no. Zhivago says he understands what he's going through because he had to choose between Ban and Celian. Ban tells him it's not the same because he beat up Meliodas, but even after all Meliodas did was smile and forgave him. Zhivago says that Ban is afraid of depending on Meliodas. Ban says yes because he's a piece of crap that can't be saved. Zhivago puts an arm around him and tells Ban that Meliodas sounds like a great friend. He tells Ban to go back to Meliodas and beg for forgiveness with all his heart. Zhivago dies after he tells Ban this. Xanari leaves Elizabeth alone while she tries to make her bud bloom. King tells Meliodas to fess up that he's really a member of the 10 Commandments. Jenna asks Merlin what King has done to Meliodas, and Merlin tells her that King's true power is disaster. King tries to attack Meliodas again, but Meliodas sends the attack back to him. Nothing happens to King. Meliodas asks King if he really is the Fairy King. King is confused, and Meliodas says that if he's really the Fairy King, then where are his wings? King tells Meliodas to shut up because he's the one asking the questions. King condenses his power into a tiny droplet and attacks Meliodas. Meliodas steals the idea and uses it to condense his own power. He's surprised when it works. Jenna calls them out of the training. King tells Meliodas that if he ever betrays the trust that Ban and Diane have in him, that King will never forgive him. They exit the cave and Meliodas asks Jenna to restore his power. She summons her staff and a goddess Amber appears. Meliodas' power is inside. She breaks the amber and releases his power. The full sky becomes black and everyone is surprised. She then directs the power back into Meliodas' body. After he asks Merlin if she can send him to the 10 Commandments. She says yes, but that he has to survive for 10 seconds on his own before she'll be able to bring him back. Meliodas agrees to the terms and disappears. He reappears before the 10 Commandments. Galen says that he is his prey since he didn't finish him off the first time. Meliodas attacks him and proceeds to kick his butt. Galen says that he seems different and Meliodas says that he got some more power. Jenna is worried that Meliodas didn't seem any different for someone who gave up their emotions. Xanari says that he didn't give them up but that he has control over his new wrath now. Meliodas tells the 10 Commandments that he just wanted to say hi and talk a little. Zeldris says that there is nothing to talk about and that they will take vengeance on them. Meliodas says that that's a cold thing of him to say despite them being brothers. Meliodas tells them that if they plan to pick up where they left off that the 7 deadly sins will stop them. Fraudrin and Zeldris attack Meliodas but he disappears before they can touch him. Galland lays on the floor having been beaten to a pulp. He muses that that must be the power of the cursed demon. He screams into the night.